Hirsch, today is a great topic. It's all about perfectionism, and I think I hit the button perfectly.
Well, I'm glad you did because I'm feeling perfect, and I think that if perfect could be an emotion, that would probably be the emotion that I'm trying most to embody today.
Ooh, tell me what that emotion of perfectionism means to you. I want to hear this.
Well, okay. So, as we were talking about before the show, I have a new background that I've been using, um, and one might say that the perfect thing to do would be to find the background and put it up there before we begin. And then another way of looking at perfect would be to say, well, the perfect thing would be to just forget about it and move on and focus on the topic at hand. And so, what I'm trying to embody is the idea that perfect um, is relative. Perfect is relative to a situation, and that's hard to sometimes wrap your head around because, and I had this conversation earlier today. Um, Perfect is often about what we think is expected of us or what we think we're supposed to do. And so, what are your thoughts on perfect when it comes to sales and business?
Well, you mentioned several juicy things I want to pick up on.
Okay.
And the first is the fact that perfect is an internal and an external situation. And if we judge ourselves perfect by looking at external measures, that's where we probably are constantly feeling that we haven't measured up. There's always someone, something, whatever standard that we could strive for and hence say to ourselves, I didn't make it, therefore I'm not perfect. But you raise a very interesting point about perfection coming from within. It's a matter of saying to myself, all is well, everything is perfect. It's just the way it should be. You and I both have an expression in Yiddish called beshert, which is
Ooh, yeah.
a juicy term, which basically means that it's ordained or it's just the way it should be, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I think that that's what I'm leaning toward because what it accepts is the limitations of our knowledge of what is meant to be or what is right. And I don't mean, you know, I did struggle for a long time with destiny as uh as I was saying, like expectations. Is my destiny this or is my destiny that? Really, that's not for us to really worry about. What Bashir, encompasses is the idea of what's meant to be beyond what we even understand. And I think that's a good starting point for conversations about what's best.
So, is best and perfect synonyms?
Oh, are best and perfect
Perfect
synonymous with one
synonyms?
another?
See, I
Yeah.
don't think so.
Not literally,
Mhm.
but it's a matter of what we do. In other words, if you're looking at you're using a level to figure out if the wall if a wall or a shelf is level. There's a perfect level, and that's the definition of perfection. But then there's how you want something to look or how you feel is right for you, you know. Um and so there's perfect. That's why I said, like, is there a perfect match, for example, between uh, uh, a service provider and a customer? Is there a perfect match, or do we make the match work?
Exactly, we make it work. you're talking about the level really brings to mind an exercise, an activity that I've had many of my clients perform. And for any listener right now who is struggling with perfectionism and everything has to be just so, you might enjoy this particular activity. And it is to take a picture on the wall and deliberately make it not level, make it askew. And at least for 24 hours, allow yourself to live with it askew. It's a way of showing that perfectionism, again, what is it? It's a construct that we have placed on things, which oftentimes is manacles and handcuffs, and it keeps us from moving forward because we're not ready. It's got to be perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that I've worked with a lot of filmmakers too, and a lot of them will say, I never watch my movies when they're done because they're never going to be perfect. And I could work on that. I've heard Martin Scorsese say, I could work on that movie forever, and it would never be perfect. It would never be finished. So finished is another word that we kind of, well, are we finished trying to shoehorn a relationship into being? Are we finished trying to contort ourselves so that our prospective clients will appreciate who we are? What is the point at which we are done making that?
And of course, it brings to mind that done is better than perfect. And that's an expression I've heard many times. I'm sure you have too. It's
Yes.
fascinating to me because I know writing and words are your bailiwick, and as they are mine, I do enjoy writing a great deal. And it, I bet you've had this experience, which is you go back and you look at something you've written months ago. Like right now, you have a book that's in publication. It's moving along. It's going to be finished, right? And
Right.
yet, and yet, I bet every now and again you get a twinge of it should be phrased a bit differently. I could have written something else. There's another piece that I could have added, or I should take this one away. Yeah, I know. This sense of being perfect, it holds us as a prisoner. And so, where does perfection come from? Yes, there are external standards we're trying to meet, but I think it's more the internal ones that are the most vicious and most malicious, uh, because we can never somehow be satisfied that we have done it perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah, and as we can see, so you were right. This is a little wonky. The the whole virtual background on StreamYard is a little strange, but I
Yeah,
did find see. So I did find the perfect background, which is my book and my QR code and all that. But it's not really the perfect background because it's all wonky on this particular application. And so, you know, here we go. Everything's changed. What's perfect? Now this is perfect. It's clean, it's smooth, and and I think, to be honest, what happens is um, our peace of mind is really what we're all striving for. Peace of mind. It's not about, honestly, and we talk about this a lot, fitting the customer and knowing ourselves, knowing the customer, so that we can sell to the right customer and enjoy those relationships. Honestly, it's about peace of mind, and I think that's what we really want in a client. I think and that's what they want, peace of mind. And when you're doing that sales call, they're sussing you out to see if you can give them peace of mind. And yes, it comes in the form of deliverables and services and knowledge and expertise and performance. But can they really get peace of mind and sleep at night that this problem that they're coming to you with
Mhm.
is being solved.
Yeah, it's a sense of satisfaction and a sense of having done the best I could, like you say, to come up with the next step, the next a solution, and move forward. Because perfectionism has a tendency to hold people back. It keeps you from moving forward. And that's why that expression, perfect, done is better than perfect. It's all about moving forward. And obviously, many of us are beholden to these standards, externalized. It reminds me of some work, I believe, by Martin Seligman, who is a psychologist, who
Oh,
did
yeah.
research on internal versus external. And you asked initially about sales, about perfect sales or whatever. And I believe he actually studied people, salespeople who either were internalized or externalized people. The internalized people had, when they didn't make the sale, it was all about mea culpa. Something's wrong with me, which doesn't really help the learning curve. Whereas the externalizers who had said, it's not about me, it's about the circumstances, the atmosphere, the weather, whatever, they went on to be more successful. Interesting shift, right? Do we internalize or externalize a sense of victory or a sense of defeat? Because
Mhm.
this again keeps us from moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really a loaded topic, I think, because ultimately what we're trying to perfect is sometimes a situation, but in many times a process. Book is finite. A movie is finite. When we yes, you can update it, recut it, re-edit it, but basically it's a project and it has an end date, and then you put it out to the world. Whereas business relationships and business solutions are processes that we're trying to perfect. You know, if I perfect the way that I do sales calls, will I close 50% of those calls? If I perfect the way I deliver the service, will I get 5-star reviews every single time? And the funny thing is that perfecting either of those things does not guarantee any outcome, really. Perfecting my calls, perfecting my services does not guarantee perfect execution or perfect gratification on the part of both my client and myself. So, where I'm shaking out at the end of this kind of 15-minute foray into what kind of level of perfection should we pursue, um, pursue it on one side,
Mhm.
but don't expect it on the other side. Don't
Mm.
expect that the perfect execution is going to yield necessarily a perfect result.
Well said. Very wise words. And for those of you listening, watching our replay, you may be thinking to yourself, wow, this is great, information, but more so you may be thinking these two minds have very interesting point of view. They come together, but they also, we're diverse in what we're having to say. And it's this kind of synergy, it's this kind of focused, laser focused attention that we will give to you in our community called Know and Sell Insiders. So if you're looking for this thoughtful analysis with some specific recommendations and a lot of wisdom and experience, then check out Know and Sell Insiders. There, we'll put a link to make sure you can learn more about it. Do you want to say anything additional? And then we
Um,
need to close.
no, I love what you said, Nancy. And the word that we use sometimes, you and I, is double braining. The fact that that it's not just two perspectives, it's a unique combined perspective on where you are in your business, where you are in your branding, messaging, and sales continuum. And so we're very excited to offer that to people, to a community, to create a community around this and not just be marketing it as a service.
Right. Marketing and sales, it's a continuum, it's a flow, and you don't need to be perfect, but you do need to take action and move forward. With that, let's bid them adieu. This is Dr. Nancy There, Sales Whisperer.
And Hirsch Repun, the message therapist.